Great, so hello everyone, and welcome. I'm here today to talk about my experience building analytics in the cloud at Keen.io. Keen.io is an elegant cloud-based API for doing data collection, reporting, and visualization. But first, I think we should get to know each other a little bit. I mean, I know we're at a nightclub, but I'm old-fashioned. So my name is Josh. Thank you again for the introduction. So I'm the VP of Engineering at Keen.io. And let's see here, let me flip this. Okay, got it to work. Great, so my interests on the technical side tend toward distributed systems and figuring out how we scale with software. On the organizational side, I've worked at companies as small as one, be myself, and companies much bigger than 100,000 employees worldwide, Fortune 500 global companies. And so that's caused, I think a lot about company culture and organization and how to scale that over time. And I also am very active in the open source communities. Recently, Keen.io released a tool called Ping Pong, which is an open source monitoring solution built on top of Keen.io that lets anyone just deploy a very simple app, and then that will do HTTP analytics and sort of anomaly detection within their architecture. So that's a little bit about me, but really we're here to talk about analytics and the cloud, and I'm going to try and talk about how we're doing analytics in the cloud and why I think that's something that we're going to see more of in the future. So we're going to start with something that you already know. Obviously, mobile is exploding, Internet of Things is exploding, connected devices are exploding. All of these areas are experiencing more or less exponential growth, which is great. But these new devices really generate an unprecedented amount of data. For every one new device that you have, you may have you're getting data points every minute or every second or something like that. I wanted to put some numbers on these slides, but I didn't bother. I figured that by the time I actually got up here to talk, they'd be out of date anyway. That's how fast I think these things are growing. That leads us to a problem as well, that developers and manufacturers, to remain competitive in their markets, have to capture this data and then use it to improve their products, use it to make their customers happier. And it turns out that most mobile developers and device manufacturers, they don't have the time or the resources to build out big data infrastructure. That's really not their core competency, the storage and processing in real time of terabyte or petabyte size data sets. I think a lot of us here kind of know how hard it is to actually do big data well. It requires distributed systems engineering, planning for high availability and multi-tenant environments, back-end engineering, dedicated operations. It's very hard. I've been doing big data at a startup for over a year now, and prior to that, I did data warehousing and insurance, and I did ad platform migration for a large web company down in Silicon Valley. And I've seen every time how hard it is to get right. It's a ton of work, and it requires this very diverse and talented and also very expensive group of people coming together to do this challenging work. And so part of what that leads to is that every company who's making a mobile app or an internet-connected device, is not going to be able to put together this kind of big data talent. There's just not enough of it to go around. So, you might know where I'm going. It's cloud to the rescue. So, this is a cloud conference. I knew you guys would love this slide. The cloud fixes everything, right? If you've got a sore elbow, put some cloud on it. You'll be okay. Rising real estate prices in your neighborhood, move to the cloud. Don't feel like going to Best Buy on a Sunday to pick up hardware, just move to the cloud. The cloud is perfect for you. So Keen.io is analytics in the cloud for web, mobile, and Internet of Things developers. The best part is that there's no data team assembly required. And so all of our services are accessed via API behind the cloud. And the way I describe it is that we do the things that are very challenging, that are hard, the big data stuff I was just talking about, which includes collecting data from multiple ingestion points at being highly available and geographically distributed, and then taking all of that data and slicing and dicing it under the hood, storing it and scaling it as our customers need, and then making it available for querying, and essentially more of that post-processing stuff. That's the stuff that's really hard and takes a lot of time, and that's what we try and abstract away from our customers. We want them to focus on actually answering the business questions that they have. And the way they are doing that is by building reports or building dashboards or building just charts and visualizations, essentially digging into that data and getting use out of it and not having, and actually having that happen within days of signing up, not weeks or not months. And so like I said, it's really the APIs themselves that make this all possible. I've just put a couple of things up on here. These are screenshots of the documentation that we have out on the web, and that's all publicly available. And I think documentation, since we're, some of us are certainly in the API world, it's always useful to stress sort of how important documentation is. That's, is someone gonna clap back there? Because I love you, because that's really after my own heart. I mean, we spend a lot of time thinking about our documentation, and the way we think about it is that it's the top of our funnel for developer adoption. Developers are going to come to our site and they're going to kind of see some of our marketing copy and stuff like that, and we certainly put time into that because it's important, but we know after that they're going to jump over to our documentation and see how easy it is to get set up and see what kind of things they're going to be able to do and how it's going to play with the rest of the things that they're already using. So, I guess that's kind of my PSA for the talk is if you're building APIs and you want to attract developers and retain them, then documentation is really critical. So, one of the things about Keen that is interesting is that we describe ourselves as custom analytics. And that means that we're not just analytics for a particular type of device or a particular vertical, but we make something that horizontally is useful for anyone trying to answer basic questions that are sums or counts or groups or series or all these other sort of analytics primitives. We want anyone to be able to use our services that can model their data in that way. And that's also when you can put your data in exactly the format that it needs to be in, then you can really do your core business KPIs this way. A lot of the analytics tools that are out there today, they tend to be fairly opinionated about what you should be measuring. They might say, put your data in this format, and then here are some canned reports or some canned visualizations. And one of the reasons that we are excited about what we do is that we don't have that restriction. We don't have to tell customers like, oh, you fit in this vertical, so send your data this way and expect these reports. We're a little bit lower in the stack than that, but still higher in the stack than a traditional database might be. So yeah, the term I sometimes throw around in the office is APIs for KPIs. It's actually possible to get your unique sort of differentiated business metrics out of using our API, or at least we hope. It's certainly one of our ongoing design goals. And a lot of the conversations we have with customers are we meeting your needs when it comes to the exact thing that you're trying to measure? Everyone really has something different to measure, and if you're trying to put that into a mold that is, say, coming down from the industry, like gaming, there's always industry level metrics like daily active users and ARPU, average revenue per user. If you're having to measure those things in only one way, you lose the differentiation of your perspective and of what your business is trying to do. So some very, very quick details about the way we do this. It's simple, it's what you might expect. In terms of data modeling, we allow customers to send any kind of JSON that they want. if it's valid JSON, we can actually turn that into analytics events and then allow queries to be run on that stuff. On the other side, the reporting side, it's very similar. Instead of providing canned dashboards and canned reports, we provide chart dashboard visualization building tools. For example, our most popular visualization builder is in JavaScript, and it's very, very easy, maybe just a half hour of work to set up a custom HTML and JavaScript dashboard. So the one on the slide is an example of that, where one of our customers has gone and modeled the data in the exact way that matches their business need, and then created a report that has all of their key metrics on it. I mean, we are the API that powers it, but really the last mile of knowledge about the business, what needs to be measured, what needs to be reported on, had to come from that customer. So I think, before I wrap things up, I wanted to just talk a little bit about what's it like to do analytics at a startup. Keen.io, compared to, say, IBM, is a small company. We are 15 people today. We've grown from 6 months ago. So we're small. And analytics is not, and especially big data analytics, is not a particularly easy or self-contained thing. So that has caused us to be very, I would say, choosy or selective about the actual things that we can do. And I put that in a category of what are things that are hard doing analytics as a startup. And saying no to certain features is definitely one of them. Like up here I have, having to tell customers that a certain feature that they want is on the roadmap. We're building brand new technology from the ground up using certain open source databases and tools at a low level, but really the features that we're bringing are things that we're making. We're not just saying, well, we have this database under the hood, so you get these features. It's more that we have a lot of things under the hood that are powering the system, and we have to give and take. So, that it's sometimes just hard to say, well, we know that it's common for this analytics feature to exist in these systems, but that's not going to be there for us for a couple of months. The great thing about having a flexible system, though, is we're usually able to find a workaround for those customers. The other hard part of doing what we do is, especially when we're a little bit smaller, was the operational perspective. We don't have a dedicated ops team. Myself and a few of other engineers, we're people writing code during the day, and we're also putting out the fires at night, which was very exhausting for a while. Again, that just makes us more choosy about what we work on during the day. But I think that's offset with a lot of great things as well. The rapid prototyping and fast deployment and fast implementation of features once we actually have them and have decided that they're in the backlog and they're ready to go. That happens very quickly. That happens usually from the time where we think of a feature, like maybe a new type of filter or a new type of visualization we can support. It'll just be a couple of days before we can actually get that out. We've built a very, very automated and very lean development practice under the hood, and so we are able to execute quickly when we need to. And we get to use cool new technologies. Part of our back end is built on systems like Cassandra or Storm, Kafka, Zookeeper, technologies that I think now are solidifying, but I don't know if any of them is more than 5 years old, or at least sort of has been production hardened for 5 years. So they're a little bit newer. It does mean that we find bugs from time to time, but a lot of them are open source too. So when we find those bugs, either we can fix them or we can actually track down the relevant committers or hit up the mailing list, and so we do some of that stuff. But it's exciting. I think both of those together are a great tool for us during the recruiting process, because we know that engineers love to work on open source. They love to do things that they can get into production quickly and actually start to show value. And so it's helped us in that area of the business and others. But anyway, guys, I think that's it. I want to thank you very much and thank IBM for having me out. I hope this was helpful. I hope you learned a little bit about what analytics in the cloud looks like and what it's like to work on that. Thanks.